Hey, welcome back! In today's video I'm bringing to you a tutorial, but this time it's not a bridge. It's for the building you can see behind me. It can be used as a barn, stables, storage, or any combination of them. Well, in fact, it can be used for a lot more if you think about it. I am using it as stables and storage, but I'll show you how to use it as a barn as well. The first thing I am pretty sure you have already noticed, this is a diagonal building. But fear nothing, cause it's really easy to build. I also enjoyed adding some color to the roof and walls, but you can make it different. And speaking in being different, this is also true for this video. Instead of a block-by-block tutorial, I'll show you how to build each part of it. I'll show you the position of the walls, the dimensions of the columns, how to set the interior to be a barn, stables, or both at the same time. I'll show you how I did the gradient and texture on the walls, and different ways to make the most annoying part, the roof. And you will be able to decide if you want to give your own personal touch or build it exactly like I show it here. At the end, I will even show you one or two things you can add to the building that I am not using, but you may like it. I hope you will find this tutorial much easier to follow and adapt than most of the traditional ones. I will appreciate if you leave a like and a comment saying what you did think about the tutorial and the building. If you have suggestions, please let me know. I'm always after ideas and learning new things. So, shall we begin? Let's start with the dimensions. The building itself is a rectangle, 10 blocks wide, 20 blocks long, in a 45 degrees angle. The yellow, black and red blocks mark the external walls of the building. If you count the roof, it will need an area of 12 blocks wide and 22 blocks long in the diagonal. Here we enclosed it in a square, blocks green, white and blue, with sides of 29 blocks. The green block at this square marks the front of the building. The red blocks mark where the corners of the building merge with this square. Now, before we start building, let's talk about the gradient I used on the walls. This will help you decide if you want to make it exactly like me, inspired by how I did, or in your own way. The gradient goal is to make the walls look dirty close to the ground. I used two blocks for this: Deepslate tiles and Deepslate bricks. Tiles are slightly darker than the bricks because of their texture. Also, because most of the wall will be made of bricks, the Deepslate bricks, being bricks and less dark than the tiles, help in the transition from the darker, dirty areas to the lighter areas. I used tiles only on the first row of blocks, close to the ground, and not everywhere. The bricks I use around the tiles, sometimes on top of them. This creates a sense of irregularity, but keeps the sense that it's a thin layer. You can say it looks more natural. To finish the transition, I used the new Tuff blocks. I placed them in the first and second rows where I left without Deepslate, and a few on the third row to create the same sense of irregularity as before. I use mostly Tuff Bricks, but also some Tuff and a few polished Tuff to add some variety in terms of texture. Tuff blocks create a great transition between Deepslate and stone blocks. Finally, I finished the walls with stone bricks. To add some variety and at the same time make the building look old, I add some different blocks here and there. Cracked stone bricks is the main block for that, but I also add andesite, polished andesite, and even a few gravel blocks. Of course, you can use any other pattern or combination of blocks you want. Let's start with the sidewalls. They are identical, 7 blocks tall. The green block here marks the front of the building. So here you have the texture for the right side wall. And this is the texture for the left side wall. The front and back of the building are also identical. The columns at the edges are part of the side walls and form the corners of the building. We will add 3 more columns on each side with a gap of 2 columns in the middle. You can see here how high each column is. Now, this is the texture for the front of the building, and this is the texture for the back of the building. The 2 central columns are where we will add the main doors at the ground level and the hay doors at the second floor. The doors will be 4 blocks tall, so we will skip 4 blocks and add a single row with 2 blocks. You can use scaffolding to help you place these blocks. Or you can just build the columns from bottom to top and break the blocks to create this space for the doors. The hay doors will be 4 blocks tall as well, but we will make them differently. Skip 4 blocks and add 5 rows with 2 blocks each after that. Again, you can use scaffolding to help you. Or just build the columns to the end and then open the space for the doors. Once you have this space and the columns above it, place upside down stairs facing each other like I'm doing here. Again, this is the texture for the front of the building, and this is the texture for the back of the building. Now, for the ground floor interior, I'll show you 4 different ways of organizing it. 2 versions as stables, 1 version as a barn, and 1 as a mix between stables and barn. Feel free to make it different. First thing, in all the versions, I use dirt path for the flooring. It's simple and I like the color. This is the floor plan for the first stables version. In this version, the horses' boxes are perpendicular to the side walls. Each box wall is 2 blocks tall and ends on a column that is 4 blocks tall. Start from the back of the building and place a wall every 2 blocks in the diagonal. At the front of the building, you will have some extra space for bigger animals like camels or some chests, barrels, and so on. There is no good way to add fence gates, so you must keep your horse tied to a fence at the bottom of the box using leads. You can have 5 boxes on each side of the building. This is the floor plan for the second stable version. In this version, the boxes are diagonal to the side walls facing the front of the building. You will have 2 small enclosed areas at the front of the building and some extra space at the back of the building. And you still can have 5 boxes on each side. Like in the previous version, each box wall is 2 blocks tall and ends on a 4 blocks tall column. This version allows you to use fence gates on each box, and that's why I prefer it. As an extra detail, we can add fences at the top of the walls. As you can see on this floor plan, if you opt for the barn, the interior is very simple. We will add only a small wooden structure to support the second floor and close the entrances with fences and fence gates. The wooden structure itself is more of an aesthetic decision than anything else. But I like to give some realism to the buildings I make, so I would make it anyway. This structure has 4 pillars, 5 blocks tall each. I am using spruce wood for them. I connect the pillars at the top, like I show here. Again, I use spruce wood for this. In survival, it's easier if you set scaffoldings and place the blocks on top of them from above. This will help keep all of them in the same direction. Just remember, you can't place scaffolding on dirt path, you will have to make it before the flooring or fix the flooring after. You can also use this version as a storage area instead of having animals here. In this case, just remove the fences and fence gates. You can also mix the stable and the barn. For that, first build the second stable version. Then, just remove the wall between the first 2 boxes and close the second one with fences like I show it here. You can do this on both sides. And now, you have some extra space for sheep, cows and so on. You can also try other configurations, like having one side with boxes, and one side with more space for other animals. Let your imagination run free, and don't be afraid of trying things. Now to the second floor. It is optional, but I really like it. Its flooring is pretty much the same for both the barn and the stables versions of the building, but I will show you the differences in a minute. I use spruce slabs for it. They are all placed 5 blocks from the ground, top side, basically connecting with the blocks above the main doors. If you want, you can make like me and add an opening in the middle. It's a way to bring things from the second floor to the first floor without having to do it using the hay doors. Good for when it's cold or raining outside. Of course, this is also more aesthetic than functional, so feel free to ignore it. But I find it cool being up here and being able to look down there. If you are doing the stables version, pay attention to the columns below the flooring. Just add another slab to fill in this space. If you are doing the barn version, you don't need to do anything, but the wooden structure will appear on the flooring like this. For both versions, I leave an opening for the ladders on the right side on both endings of the floor. You can make only one or add the 2 ladders on both sides or do it on the left side, it's up to you. Finally, I like the idea of adding fences and fence gates around the opening. In this case, I use dark oak to create contrast with the spruce floor. They consume some space, so you may opt for not adding them depending on how you use the floor. The final second floor structural elements are 3 support beams. I use spruce wood for them. The 2 lateral beams are placed 4 blocks above the flooring, while the central beam is placed 7 blocks above the flooring. It's easier if you use scaffolding and place the blocks from above so they all face the same direction. For the central beam, I add dark oak fences between each block on each side. The idea is to give some volume to it, as it is the main support for the rooftop. Here you can see where the support beams are placed. You can also notice the central support beam extends 3 blocks on the outside of the building on both ends. This is because it will work as the hay crane. We will talk about those details later. The rooftop has 2 levels, separated by walls with cooling openings. On each side, this wall is identical and it's placed on top of the lateral support beams. It is 3 blocks tall and has 4 openings, 2 blocks wide, 1 block tall. The openings start at the 4th column and are 2 columns apart from each other. Let's talk about the rooftops. Here you can see some different possibilities in terms of colors. I like the middle one with all those different reds, but in survival I went with the bricks one as it was simpler to build. As long as it exists as a slab, you can use it, so don't feel constrained to use the ones I am showing here. Also, I use Deepslate tiles for the borders, but you can use other slabs like dark oak or anything you prefer really. Now, let me show you how to build each rooftop level, starting by the sides, specifically its border. Building it is not difficult, but there are a couple tricks that may help. You can see the border is basically hanging in the air. Because of this, to place the blocks, you need some kind of support. You can use scaffolding below it, or any block really. Or a temporary block connected to the walls. That's how I do it. The border has two parts. One part goes along the side walls, always at the same level, the bottom side of the top block. It starts here. So let's add a support block and start placing the slabs. Once you finish this line, it's time for the second part that follows the front and back going up. We will follow the same idea, but now we will place two slabs instead of one. Just repeat the process on the other end and the whole process for the other side of the building. The interior is simple. The first two rows of blocks are very easy to place. One row is placed connected to the side wall, like this. The other is placed on top of the side wall. The next two rows you can use scaffolding placed below, or use support blocks like I showed you previously. Again, I find it much easier to use support blocks and then break them at the end. The final row is very easy again, as you can use the support beam to place the slabs. The other side is done the same way. For the top, things are a bit different, but I will use the same technique to place the slabs. This time, the border starts at the top side of the last block, instead of the bottom side of it, like in the side rooftops. For the sides the border goes up, we will place the blocks like this. At the last one, you add a stair facing this way. We will start filling by the second row. Take the slabs you've chosen and just place double slabs or full blocks on top of each wall block like this. After you made this row, making the first row becomes easy because you now have where to connect the slabs. The third row will need support blocks. For the fourth row, you start by adding double slabs or full block on the top of the face column like this. After that, you just keep placing blocks using the same technique as before. The fifth row is placed using support blocks like this. The sixth row starts the same way as the fourth, with double slabs or full block on the face column. From there, you just place the slabs using the help of the support blocks. Now, skip the middle row and build the other side of the rooftop. Now, just add the middle row using support blocks like this. Don't worry about them. As they are placed on top of a full block, you can break them with some care and not worry to break the blocks below it. And with that, the rooftops are done. If you wanna make the same roof as I did, with the different colors, I'll leave here the images so you can reproduce it. To finish, we just need a few details. The front and back are pretty much the same, as well as the right and left sides of the building. The main doors are done with 2 columns of barrels 3 blocks high. At the top we have a spruce slab and spruce planks. If you can imagine the doors closed, this will give the shape of an arched door. We connect the door to the face wall using 3 spruce fences on the top of a spruce plank block that works as the base for it. The hay door is made of 2 columns of spruce trapdoors 4 blocks high. The first column you can place the trapdoors directly into the wall. The second you will need support blocks behind it. For lights, we will add a chain and lanterns on the main roof like you can see here. And we will also add the lights on the sides of the main doors. For that, count to 6 from the bottom and add a stone brick wall. Add a chain to it and a lamp at the bottom. At the rooftop sides, we will add spruce trapdoors as shutters and lamps on each side of the cooling openings. I also add fences to add some detail, just to have something instead of an empty space. If you prefer, you can use glass blocks. On the inside, now that we have the roof, the floors became a lot darker. On the first floor, I just add a few torches. On the second floor, I add a few lanterns, 4 on each side. That's enough to light up the interior and spawn-proof it. And voila! The building itself is done. But before we finish the video, I just want to show you a small detail you can add to the building, and how I decorated the outside and the inside of the building for the stables, barn and the mix between them. This is the detail. It's called hay hood, and in real life it's used to protect the hay door. I didn't use it, but I think it's cool. And I think this is it for the tutorial. I'll leave you with a small tour so you can see how I decorated both the interior as well as around it. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial and this building. I'll appreciate any feedback you feel, like leaving as a comment and likes of course. Next tutorial will be a fantasy medieval bridge with small towers. I hope you will like it as well. So enjoy the tour around this barn, storage, stables, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!